Hello, hello. What's up, Dean? What's up, Bobby? We need bullish prices. Is this really the whole range? Man, that's a big one. We're still in the middle of it. Doesn't look like I'm gonna get a setup for 9 a.m. That's for sure. We still haven't filled this small gap right here. So it could be bullish, I don't know. Morning, Raf. Morning, Tris. Morning, Jerome. So no trade for me during Asia session. I don't know if you guys saw my post, but I was one tick away from a short. Other than that, no trade. You saw that? Yeah. I was like, no way this is happening, right? And then it happened. Morning, Punisher. I don't know why I didn't look this up until yesterday, but apparently Korean stock market opens 8 p.m. Eastern and then closes at 2:30 a.m. Eastern. So if you're ever looking for volume during Asia session, that's the price. That's like the market open, 8 p.m. Eastern. And that is when we saw the most volume. See, if you look, well, right here, this is Pacific time. So it's 5 p.m. open. So it was kind of slow, and then we really like whipped around at 5 p.m. right. I almost took one of these shorts. I forget which one it is, but I canceled it. But yeah, this was scary. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. All right, so unless the market opens up crazy big, I don't think I'm gonna get a setup for 9 a.m. The range is too big. Morning, Anthony. $8.30 volume helped me hit my profit target. Wow. You traded CPI? What's up, Magnifique? If you're just joining, give me a like. Press that thumbs up button. Let's try to not make it go down this time, okay? I don't want to go from 35 likes to 7. Morning, Philosopher. Thank you. Thank you for the likes. We're back to 7, 8, 9, 10. Just kidding. I got 8. We got what? 10 seconds, 15 seconds until market open. We got 6 viewers and 9 likes. 69. Nice. All right, market is open. Here we go. Is this really a 10-point move? But it looks so tiny compared to the CPI. It is. From 80 to 70, this is supposed to be like a huge move right now. But it looks so tiny because CPI was so big. Morning, Kevin. The CPI was like 60s to 15, so like a 50-point move. That's like the Trump tweet right here. 50-point move. But yeah, obviously I'm not interested until we break either side. So I'm just gonna leave the chart at that. 68.75. Okay, it's coming up. You missed it by 2 ticks. I had 3 ES contracts, so it's good that it went my way. How much money did you make with 3 contracts? You have to be close to passing. Oh yeah, I gotta buy cat food. $2,300. It helped you pass. Oh, nice. There you go. Did you activate that account already? Not yet. I switched to my personal account. I was just asking because I'm curious if the PA fee is $59, like they say. I hope so. That'll be all in for $76 to get access to 6,500. There you go. I'd say that's a good deal. Did you get stopped out, Jerome? No? Well, we're pumping. TP, nice. Good stuff. Easy. It came close, almost stopped. Well, it looks like it worked though. I think at open I should try to hold for 15, but I don't want to change things up. You mean wait 15 minutes before taking a trade? If I get a setup at open, hold for 15 points because it runs further. Oh, okay. Um, I mean, do you have? I think the best way to check is look at your data. Add 5 points more to your wins at open and see if that makes a difference. I mean, it will make a difference, but see if you lose any trades because you targeted farther, and see what the total is. That's the only way to know. What is the P&L? Your expense? No, it's the money I lost through my funded accounts that I lost. So it's not even real money. It's just funny money. My expense is like $1,000 this year. Yeah, still stuck in the middle right now. I'm just gonna wait until 10 a.m. Looking like a good short setup if no movement before 10. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, in theory, conceptually, if we keep going up, we would expect 10 a.m. reversal, right? So let's see if that happens. You're far from the purple lines, yeah. Well, my purple line's gonna change at 10 a.m., right? It's gonna go on top of whatever the high we make here. So it's gonna be a better chance of getting a setup then. If it keeps going up, I'm going long. If it rejects here, I'm shorting at 10. We'll see. Does anyone else use Elite Financial Juice? It tells you the moo. What's the moo? Monthly something something. Market on open. Yeah, I have no idea. What's up, Smooth? Alright, we're just ranging. Gotta wait for 10 a.m. News at 10, really? Doesn't look like it. Isn't the Fed chair talking today in Congress? Walsh? Yeah, testifies from 10 to 12. Okay. Yeah, that could move markets, but I don't know. I think he's just gonna punt every question. He's gonna be like, "I have a task force for that." That's gonna be 99% of his answers. SK Hynix up 13% after cratering yesterday, so it looks like the chip stocks are recovering. I feel like buying SK Hynix like a leap might be worth, but it's probably really expensive. Need to break that range, yeah. We got 5 more minutes until 10 a.m. So we're almost there. Is the lucid side down again? It's okay, it's back. It's slow, but it's up. I like how this guy asked me a question about Lucid Pro and I gave him the wrong answer, but then he corrected me like right away. So why did he even ask the question? I swear some people are just trolling me. What is my trading plan? Wait till 10 a.m. See if we get a break out of the range and trade off of that. Who asked you? Some random guy on my video. I mean, I was completely wrong, so maybe it was obvious that I was wrong. Because he was asking me what the buffer balance for Lucid Pro was, and I gave him the buffer for 50K, and I gave him the buffer balance for 25K on accident, and I didn't even realize. And he was like, immediately, he's like, don't you mean it's 52,000 whatever? I'm like, yeah, sorry. But obviously you looked it up, right? Maybe he went and looked it up and was correcting you. But I mean, like, you can do that without asking the question, right? Because, like, I assume if you ask a question, you're too lazy to look it up. But then when I give you the wrong answer, it's like, oh, let me prove you wrong. And then you're going to go look it up then. I just don't understand why people ask questions that can easily be verified. Like, open the website and look it up yourself. Yeah. I mean, I do feel that, but it's like, you know what? Whatever. Some people are just, I'm gonna call them different, okay? There's nothing wrong with them. They're just different. Okay? Their brains differently wired. But could they be trolling me? That's possible too. In which case I got trolled. And I don't mind that. I don't mind it if it's funny. You're a better man than me. We're just playing games, you know. Anything that goes on the internet, it's just a game. What's up, poor guy? Present gang leader. What? Alright, so we finally got a manageable range here. So I think... Wait, are we reversing right at 10 a.m.? Dang. If we go down from here, then it would be just a clean 10 a.m. reversal right here. That's the 10 a.m. mark right there. I honestly think rather than just like overcomplicating and being like, oh, what's the entry model? I think the way is to just short or long, you know, without a stop loss. That's the only way. Don't overcomplicate it. Just do it. But I'll never do it myself. Don't at me. No SL for the win. I mean, think about it. Logistically, if you don't have a stop loss but only have TP, can you ever lose? It's just mathematically not possible. You either win or you blow your account. Yeah. But it's not even your your money. So, oh well. That's what banks do? True. Took a short and done. Nice. You're welcome, Anthony. Banks have trillions of dollars to average down. Hey, if they run out, we taxpayers, you know, we're right there with you. We'll help you out. If they run out, we run out. We can never run out. We can just print. We have a printer. La la la. I mean, I need to get over the fact that these candles look small to me because like I'm still used to the CPI range because we still made a decent move here. You know, this is 10 points. That's a lot. Like it looks like chop, it looks like we're ranging, but we're making decent moves. Never forget. It's like martingale with no max bet. Yep. If you keep leveraging up, you know, you're bound to win. That's a mathematical fact. Isn't it funny how if we print money, it's called counterfeit? Yep. But it's fun when they do it daily. It's also funny that if we do it, the impact that money printing has on the whole country is way worse than some of us printing our own money to perhaps get like McDonald's or something. You know, if that makes sense. 67.75. Okay. Good luck. Deleted it? Okay. $64 looks better. That's the hourly low. Yeah, you might get some sort of a reaction. So you're saying we're gonna sweep this low and then we're gonna pump. Possible? It's about to flush down. Did it bounce off of the 67 though? 67.75. Yeah, it did. But it might still come back down, so. I should have left it alone. I mean, you can still get in, right? As long as it doesn't hit your TP and it comes back down to quote unquote like hit your entry, it still counts. Cause like it's same thing as you keeping the order there and the price pumping and then coming back down. You know, it's the same thing. That's what I do. Cause like sometimes when I get in a trade, the price hits my entry and I don't get filled, and I just leave it there because as long as I don't hit TP, it's the same thing as, you know, bouncing whatever and coming back down. Up to you. If that was my trade, I would just go back in. I moved to break even at 5 points still. Oh, really? Okay. Never mind. Yeah, if it hit your break even point, then it's dead. Yeah, for sure. I didn't know you do that. That's why. I thought you were do or die. There's the drop. Man, you call that one MDA? That's a crazy drop. I either take 1 to 2 of 5-point loss or get stopped at break even. Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know you had a break even management thing. Took the short at NQ. Gotta say, 10 a.m. reversal. Beautiful. God, every time I stop looking at it, it always happens, right? This is the 10 a.m. mark. I've been saying this. The first fair value gap that forms after 10 a.m. right here. It's like every time I look for it, it doesn't work. But then when I stop looking at it, it works. But my thesis is that the first fair value gap that forms after 10 a.m. is the trigger point right here. We reacted perfectly into it and then we dropped. So It stopped out at 64, yeah. I think there is something to this. There is one above that. Yeah, but that's before 10 a.m., see? The fair value gap has to start with the 10 a.m. candle. You're talking about this one, right? But it has the 959 candle in it. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. You know? Just the thesis, hypothesis. Seems pretty solid. Well, the funny thing is, like, when I do look for it each day, it doesn't seem to work. But then when I don't look for it or forget to, it works. So it's not 100% foolproof thing, but hey, I feel like with the right ratios and trade management, you can make it work. All right, we close back inside the range. If you go to the 2-hour chart and draw a trend line, it rejected off of it. Do I even have a 2-hour option here? No. I can look it up on trading view. I don't see a trend line on a 2-hour. All right, if we fall back down, I'm gonna get a setup. We come back down to the origination of, you know, the candle that went back in the range. That's how I explain it, but I don't even know what I'm saying. You're in longs? All right. Show us the annotations. Walsh is trying to talk tough on inflation. Okay, he is talking right now. I wasn't even paying attention. How many times did he say there's a task force for that? Walsh. He's saying it's a choice, like it's the consumer's fault. True. Alright, I'm watching the live stream. Maybe I can play it here. Add some audio to this. Whoa! What is happening, guys? We're getting a little volatile right now. What is it? Walsh. No, that's not right.
Sooner, I don't believe we would have been burdened with this undue tax over the last 5 years. It's nearly the same degree. That's why we are reform-oriented.
Is it too loud?
That's why my colleagues and I are so driven by these task forces to think about them anew. And in final response, I'd just say one of the task forces you mentioned is to revisit the inflation frameworks that the Federal Reserve uses so that we can better understand what will cause inflation to rise and fall.
Thank you. You also referenced courage in your opening statement. You just outlined the toughness of the set of policy choices that you and your fellow governors have. So difficult that your longtime predecessor, Arthur Burns, described that mission as the anguish of central banking, trying to cope with difficult structure.
Bro, if this loses, I might have to stop trading when guys speaking. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we have the commitment, the power, and the responsibility to deliver on the mandate that this committee gave us, and we will. We've got full ability to do it, so you will not hear me blaming anyone else.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My time has expired, and I recognize the ranking member, Mrs. Waters, for questions for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair Walsh, Section 10 of the Federal Reserve Act states, and I quote, "No member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System shall be an officer
Task force is the best task force. Task force is the thing we need. Task force is the best boy. Yeah, like I said, I told you he's going to talk about his task force.
Or trust company, quote unquote. This prohibition ensures there's no conflict of interest arising from your role in making
They're frying him. It's all a show. Doesn't
that could
matter.
lead to your personal profit. Yes or no? Do you think that's a sensible prohibition?
Like any kind of congressional hearing or confirmation hearing, it's all a show. It's like they're gonna confirm him anyway.
Excuse me.
They're not going to do anything about it.
And it's the law we will follow.
It's just showing their constituents like,
going.
hey, I did something. Okay,
Vice
look,
Chair Bauman
I did something.
FDIC Chair Hill testified last year that this prohibition is good public policy as it ensures
Daryl?
that bank
Her wig is
regulators
epic.
serve the public's best interest and not
Exactly
their
all
own.
a show, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, President Trump undermined the independence of financial regulators, mandating the White House must now review and approve regulatory rules put forward by banking regulators, including the Fed, except when it comes to monetary policy. And instead of focusing on the job Americans elected him to do, the president grossly profiting off of his position to the extent the president and other executive branch officials now have a say in regulations in the Fed issues. Chair Walsh, should those officials be prohibited from owning any businesses where they have a role in regulating them, whether it is crypto company or bank or anything else? Yes or no?
So, Ranking Member Waters, I don't mean to disappoint you, but we're going to stay in our lane at the Federal Reserve. The more we stay in our lane, the more we stay out of politics. The rules and obligations for others outside the Federal Reserve are not something at which I feel it's appropriate for me to opine.
I have here President Trump's most recent financial disclosure, which shows that Trump made billions of dollars in the first year of his presidency, the bulk of which came from his family's crypto businesses, all while he is responsible for overseeing the agencies regulating crypto. This is an egregious conflict of interest, and Congress must put an end to it. Now, I want to just show you, in case you haven't had time to look yet, that this is the president's disclosure of his financial interests. This is, how many pages? 900. This is 900 pages of financial interest. When you have time, I want you to go through them.
My
so
voice
you'll
changed,
know
thank you.
And understand exactly what I'm talking about.
This is my other voice.
So let me
I can
ask you,
speak
do you
in
believe
two
we
different
must put an
voices at
end
the
to
same
it?
time.
Ranking Member, you've given us a big job. We've begun in 6 short weeks to tackle the big job. And
Did she just laugh too?
Well, let me just go further with the prediction markets.
Okay, so there's your proof that it's a show. It's like they're smiling at each other. They're like, haha, like I'm grilling you, and you know, haha.
Insiders appearing to profit ahead of market
And she thinks it's
moving,
ridiculous too.
Trump
That's why she
administration
laughed too.
decisions. Like when officials with close ties to the administration make trades.
I mean,
prior to
what she's
major
talking
tariff
about is true.
announcements.
It's all true,
So
but
Walsh,
it doesn't matter.
What oversight does the Fed conduct over its employees with regard to insider trading? And given
It's like
the
they're just
rise
going through the
of
checklist.
prediction
So it's like,
markets,
hey,
is the
I
Fed
complained about
increasing its
Trump
oversight
making
of
all that
its
money.
employees
Check.
profiting from the use of
I
material,
grilled Walsh.
nonprofit
Check.
information?
All right, now I can go home.
At the end of my very first week on the job, I sent a letter to the 23,000 employees of the
You
Fed,
knew I was half black.
reminding them the best of the Fed's
I'm more than
traditions,
half,
which is
I'd
our
say.
culture. And included in that culture is integrity. Included in that culture is ensuring that we abide by the law and the very highest standards. That's a commitment that we've made to each other and will make to you.
Well, thank you. Chair Walsh, in
Dean,
2019,
looking at your,
I posed a
setup
simple
right
question
now.
to former Chair Powell. I asked, if you
Looks
get a
pretty
call
good.
from the president and he said, I'm firing you, pack up and it's time to go, what would you do? Chair Powell said, of course, I would not do that. The answer would be no.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
I asked further. He does not want me to go any further. Do you think the president doesn't have the
He can
authority?
answer that answer. He can give you an answer in writing, and I'm sure he will do
I want
that
the
in a
public to
timely
hear.
way. Thank you so much.
So funny.
The chair recognizes the chair of our task force
having a
monetary
great time.
policy, Mr. Lucas of Oklahoma. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, Mr. Chairman, I want to start off discussing these task forces.
Whoa,
you've
we're
created.
pumping hard.
Clearly, Chairman Hill's monetary policy task force force idea is catching fire as we see this go across the landscape. What do you anticipate the result of the task forces to be? Can we expect public reports or other documents? How do you envision presenting the results of these findings? Mr. Chairman?
Thank you very much. Right now, they're in discovery mode. I've given the 5 task forces a tall task to go back to first principles, see what we're doing, see what can be improved upon. They were starting with a blank sheet of paper.
Task force.
A highly credible central bank running the most important monetary policy in the world. What would we do? Are there existing practices we could improve upon? Are there hard questions we could answer? The changes in the economy relevant to that? In terms of disclosure, we're going to make sure that the external independent task forces, which are staffed by some superb Fed staffers, that they get to share their views first with the decision makers. There are going to be 19 of us around the table that are committed to listen to them with an open mind and make decisions. But there's going to be nothing held in secret here. This is a public discussion on these 5, and I'm happy to share the results and the thinking periodically between now and the end of the year.
So much tax money being spent, discovery mode, they hire consultants.
The task force is very sensitive on this thing. Let's move to the communications and balance sheet. A concern I raised with your predecessor
jobs, though, right?
is
More
the potential
jobs for people.
Confusion on the purpose of adjustments to the Fed's balance sheet.
It's like Doge, you know?
Clear and frequent communication.
Gotta cut the fat.
The trading desk announced yesterday it's continuing the $10
I heard
billion
Doge just
bill
ended,
purchases
and it
this
was
period, presumably to
officially
maintain
ended,
ample
and it was
reserves.
like
I understand
so
not
bad.
wanting to preempt the work of the communications
Nothing
task
got done.
force, but can you share your thoughts on balance sheet policy
Consultants
communication?
are offshore.
Will you make it clear to the markets when shrinking the balance
Probably.
sheet is intended to tighten monetary policy rather than a deregulatory effort to avoid market distortions?
Yeah. You raise a couple of very good points. First, that some of the boundaries of these task forces will overlap. In some sense, each of the task forces are charged with obligations that are ultimately the FOMC and the Board of Governors. So the Communications Task Force and the Balance Sheet Task Force, there might be some overlap in their work. Let me cut to the chase. The balance sheet policy
Onshore
since
resources
the
are
global
too
financial
expensive for the
crisis when I
government.
last
Nothing is
served,
too expensive for the government.
The balance sheet regime
Have you
has
seen the
changed
defense
quite
budget?
significantly. The size and duration of assets the Fed's holding have changed massively. They changed first in a period of
I
crisis.
don't think the government is in the
That was
business of
this new balance
saving
sheet
money.
policy. I don't want to prejudge decisions that this task force makes, but it's no secret of my long-held views, and I'll just state them 3 ways. One is the balance sheet is part of
why is the
monetary
top-
policy. Monetary policy is made both through
'cause
interest
I'm an
rates
NQ
and
guy.
through the balance sheet
I did it
policies.
again. Like I
The balance
switched
sheet
my
isn't
trading
merely
view
about
chart to
plumbing. So that's point
NQ
one.
and never switched back.
Second, I want
need
to
to
assure
stop
you
doing
that
that,
if there
or
were a
else I'm gonna
change
miss a
in
setup
balance
one
sheet
day.
policy, that we would preview it, explain it, debate it, and no changes in balance sheet policy would happen without good advance notice to the likes of this committee and broadly financial markets. And 3, as we think about balance sheet policy, we at the Federal Reserve have to do, I think, a strong and compelling job to stay clear of fiscal policy. We want to be out of the fiscal policy business, which is between you and the Treasury Secretary and the President, and focus on monetary policy. Those are among the big questions I've asked this group of 3 distinguished leaders to take on, and I look forward to hearing what they have to say about it.
The composition of Treasury purchases continues to trend towards more price-sensitive market participants. The MPR details this trend along with the strong demand and increased liquidity, though we know from experience conditions can worsen quickly in the crisis. How are you thinking about financial stability and the threat of fiscal dominance as Congress fails to get spending under control while the demand for our debt, including the Federal Reserve, continues to change?
So it's an excellent question. As we sit here today, the average duration, that is the average outstanding stock of assets that are held by the Fed and U.S.
Final
Treasuries
cost
is about
is
6.5
expensive, but
years.
for firms to make it work, they
Treasuries that
bring
held
in
in the
offshore.
market are about 4.5 years.
Yes.
I understand in periods of crises, like the 2020 pandemic
We
and
need
the 08
something
crisis,
bullish. I don't even know
central
why we
banks,
went
by
up,
design,
honestly.
needing to step into markets to create a fair price. But in more benign times, when our overall holdings are larger than the market, that's something where monetary policy is, in the language of former Chairman Volcker, on the edge of its authority. These are among the questions that this task force will look at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the ranking member of the House Small Business Committee, Ms. Velasquez of New York, for 5 minutes.
Right here. Welcome to the committee. I would like to start with a straightforward, simple question. Do you work for Donald Trump? Yes or no?
If I'm permitted to say, we're an independent central bank. We're honored to be independent. Our independence came from you.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you. What steps
enough.
would you take if the president or others in the administration target you or your fellow governors because he doesn't like how many of them are voting on interest rate policy?
So it's not my intuition to engage in hypotheticals, but I'll tell you this: the Supreme Court said
that's an easy way out.
The Supreme Court said that the Federal Reserve and the conduct of monetary policy is independent. To the extent there were questions about it, the courts answered those questions.
So what would you do?
I would continue to do my job.
Okay, good. Chair Walsh, do you agree that current monetary policy exists
That's good
in
enough.
an extremely
I'm gonna do my
polarized
job.
and politicized environment?
Outside the four walls of the Federal Reserve, there's no doubt a lot of politics. But my goal inside the central bank is for there to be no politics. To the extent there's politics there, we're going to get rid of them.
Well, I, along with many on my side, will say that the attempted firings of a sitting Fed governor and Fed chair in the central bank's 111-year history is quite the politicization and polarization of the Fed. Chair Walsh, at your nomination hearing a few months ago, you said, and I state, I am committed to ensuring that the conduct of monetary policy remains strictly independent. You just said that. Are you still committed to conducting independent monetary policy today?
Absolutely.
Given the current mistrust of government and the political environment surrounding your appointment, the decision to limit communications and offload Fed objectives to clandestine task forces with no clear transparency calls your motivations into question. Can you commit today to institute an explanatory framework that details the reasoning of the Fed's actions following policy changes?
I'm here today, Congressman, to do just that. And I think I've demonstrated in my first 6 or 7 weeks in office a commitment to independence and a commitment to reform. Those two are of common importance, and I'm going to deliver on both of them.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Chair Walsh, at your
You just
first
answered like nothing burger. She's like, all right, that's a good answer. Let's move on.
You were asked how you intend to handle Fed communications going forward. You answered, and I quote, "We made some changes today. I expect more changes to come, and some of those might well be worthy of a press conference." To me, that is not a very definitive standard. Can you commit today to creating a fixed public standard for which FOMC decisions and procedural changes trigger a press
We're closing back
conference
inside the range.
rather than deciding case by case which ones might be worth it? Yes or no?
So if I can be a slightly longer than yes or no, the last 63 months, maybe 64 months of high inflation above the Fed's objective suggests that it is immediately important to think about reforms, including in communications, and that's what we're going to do. I don't expect any of the change in communications to be about hiding the ball. The purpose of a change in communications is to do one thing right, which is to get monetary policy
I
right.
hear you, but are you instituting any standards that will qualify for a press conference as a worth news for the public and here us in
News made it
Congress?
pop, but it's
So in a
dropping
word,
back
yes, and we have a
below the
task
2-hour
force
trend
that's going to
line.
help us think about how to do that and do a better job of getting
Well,
policy
what was the
right.
news?
Making
Okay.
sure that you know
We
what we're
didn't have
doing and
any
why.
news.
Can you give me a single objective or criteria right now on how you will determine whether or not a change at the Fed is significant enough for you to hold a press conference on it?
Mr. Chairman, I'd invite you to answer that question in writing, please, for the gentlewoman from New York. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas. Mr. Sessions, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very
Saved.
much. Chairman, welcome. We're delighted that you're here. This is your first time here, but you'll get used to coming back. You'll be here twice a year, so your report to Congress is important, and we do count on the factual nature of that. I'd like to refer, if I can, to 3 questions and allow you to speak instead of myself most of the time. Number 1, housing interest rates, that would be on page 21 and 37. Then understanding better the agricultural stability of that marketplace. I represent a hugely agricultural district. And second, or lastly, the labor market outlook, that's page 16. I'll let the gentleman please move forward, and I'll prompt you now on the first one, housing interest rates. You would please talk to us, your view of that. It's higher than what I want, but you're the person that's in the seat today.
So as I mentioned in my opening statement, prepared remarks, the economy
half of
is
the position
solid.
off
Financial markets
above
look like they're
W
in
winning
very
day.
good
Nice.
condition.
Good job, man.
When we look at housing
think that was a
markets,
good
the
setup.
story is much more uneven. 30-year fixed-rate mortgages,
And
which
Trump didn't
is
crash the
really
market
the
today,
relevance
so
of much of this
saved.
discussion to a lot of
Too
hardworking
high.
Americans. It's higher than it's been, and in part, that's because of inflation that has been above the Fed's objectives.
Okay, and looking forward,
So we have
your goal, what can we look at you and say, what is our new chairman going to do about that?
So he's going to deliver price
Am I
stability
gonna take
with
a
his
trade?
colleagues
Yeah,
at
if we
the
go back up.
FOMC. And what we can do in making sure that people are confident that the change in prices is at such a level they don't have to think about it and they don't have to
If
talk
we go
about
up
it.
or down,
It is consistent
like
with
if we come down
long-term
here or
treasury
back up
yields
here,
being lower,
I'm gonna get a setup.
and that's also consistent with mortgages being more affordable.
Well, I agree with that, and I'll look forward to that. Agricultural outlook, as you know, farmers, the farm economy is going through some changes. Your viewpoint on that?
As you know, the Fed does not target particular sectors, but that doesn't mean these sectors aren't incredibly important. The housing economy matters to the economy, the overall economy, and so does the ag economy. It's the breadth and diversity of the U.S. economy that gives it its strength. It's the dynamism of what's happening in each of these sectors, including in
Biden
agriculture.
took a win in 2
that
weeks,
gives
light
us
300. That's
great
not bad,
comfort
man.
that economic growth can be
That's a solid
materially
win.
higher than it is. We are not afraid of productivity-led growth, and that's not unique to AI. That's across all sectors of the economy. As I mentioned to Chairman Hill, we're looking for growth to be broader and the change in prices, the inflation in prices to be more limited. Agriculture is not immune to either of those developments.
Well, the Agriculture Secretary has been added to some of your important committees to make sure there's discussion. I hope that you will listen to her. It is important for you to understand
Assuming
that
it was
when
news
people
from the
talk
pop,
about the stock
I
market
think nobody
or
knows why we
investment,
popped.
farmers and ranchers look out in their backyard
I mean, I can check
at the
Forex
cost of
Factory,
their
see if
equipment,
there's
at the
anything.
cost of their land, at the cost of things. They don't have a stock market. They have their own investment. And I think that the Secretary can be there to completely continue to remind you of that. Labor
The only
market
thing is
outlook really looks
the
good.
congressional hearing.
Page
That's it.
16, sir, your take.
So unless like something
So
Walsh
the labor
said
market has
that
been
made it pop, I
remarkably
don't see it.
resilient. The increase in nominal wages has been solid. You might have heard in my comments at the beginning of this a bit more focus on the price stability part of the mandate. I want you to know, though, that there is no disfavored part of the legislative remit that you gave us. The dual mandate is your word to us that we're going to focus on price stability and on full employment. I intend to do just that, and if I could add one other thing, in my view, the two parts of the mandate are not in conflict. This is not an either-or proposition. The more we can do to deliver low and stable prices, the more we can get it such that people aren't worried about inflation. More employers are going to want to hire more workers. So you gave us a remit. We take both parts of it seriously. As we look out the window now, the labor markets look to be in pretty good balance. We've got some work to do on the inflation front.
Well, we, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, encourage people to go back to work. And that is why we do not tax overtime pay and why we do not tax what would be tips. We need to get people back in the marketplace. We hope you helped us out, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to us, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time.
Gentleman from Texas yields back. Chair recognizes the ranking member of our Capital Markets Subcommittee, Mr. Sherman of California, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, first I want to commend you for looking to improve the data on which you base your monetary policy decisions. Up until now, we've relied on survey data as a substantial part of that. And increasingly, Americans just don't
we got 10 minutes left.
Survey questions.
To either go up or down.
I want to commend you for declaring your independence. We saw what happens in Argentina, Venezuela, and most notably Turkey when federal central bank independence is eroded. I would say ironically that had your predecessor caved to Trump and lowered interest rates below what economics would call for, we would have much higher inflation today, and that would have been bad for Americans. It would have been absolutely terrible for the Republican Party. So the independent, your agency has saved Donald Trump from himself.
Got him.
And finally, I would say don't rely on this distinction between the Cook and the Slaughter cases. The idea that every congressionally created independent agency isn't independent except yours, you don't want to be relying on that. The distinctions the court makes between your agency and every other agency are rather weak historically. Our capital markets support our business expansion and our economy. Money market funds are an important part of that. Buying short-term commercial paper from corporations. Our payment system is designed to meet the needs of honest Americans. That's why we have an anti-money laundering, know your customer rule that makes it a bad system for drug dealers, sanctions evaders, et cetera. There's a rival to these institutions, and that is a cryptocurrency, which literally means hidden money, and is designed to, and then we have in particularly stable coins, which are just like a money market fund, except you earn zero interest, and everything is hidden. Now, the Federal Reserve established liquidity facilities to support money market funds in the last crisis. Will the Federal Reserve support cryptocurrency or stable coins if they face a run-on from investors?
So, Congressman, thank you for mentioning many of those issues. We talked about a lot of them in your office, so I appreciate it. I still have the scars from the 2008 financial crisis.
We all do.
I still have the scars from the extraordinary efforts that my colleagues and I, under Chairman Bernanke's leadership, had to do. That is not something we want to repeat.
Can you assure us
that
we might go up?
You will not be bailing out stablecoin and cryptocurrency?
So I don't want to, I can be more broadly than that. We do not want to be in the bailout business, full stop.
But your predecessor did provide a liquidity function for money market funds. If, God forbid, we faced a similar circumstance in the crypto world, would you bail them out?
So I want to be very clear. We're going to do everything we can to mitigate those sorts of extraordinary risks. If and when they were to come in the next 4 years, we want to be in a position we're not bailing out anybody, including crypto.
You're not really answering the question. Obviously, everybody prefers our economy works well. And I'm certainly concerned with giving non-banks direct access to the payment system, and this Kraken filing with the Kansas City Fed is concerning, but I want to move on to Basel III. Your predecessor said that the capital requirements for banks in 2019 were about right. The current reproposal substantially raises those capital requirements. Were capital requirements about right in 2019, or should they be higher than that today?
So the good news is we have a proposed capital rule that's out for comment. I'm quite interested in getting the reports and the comments on that, and I look forward to reviewing those and making a judgment. I would say, as a first principle, strong capital ratios, strong liquidity ratios, strong supervision, and strong market discipline, they're all of a piece to ensure we don't find ourselves in a world where there's unsafe or unsound institutions.
We, of course, want strong limits. On the other hand, if you go overboard, you hurt economic growth and hurt the economy. I hope in that review process you'll look at low-income housing tax credits, where you've already moved from 400% to 100%. It should be closer to 20%. These are very stable assets.
Gentleman's time has expired.
We're going up.
Appreciate you,
close.
Mr. Chairman. The chair recognizes the chair of our subcommittee on financial institutions, the distinguished gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Warsh, congratulations on your confirmation and swearing in as the 17th Chairman of the Federal Reserve. I am grateful for your commitment to reforming the Fed, and that appreciation is surpassed only by our shared love for Kentucky thoroughbreds and your love of the great sport of horse racing. Let me just ask you, first of all, since you're swearing in over 7 weeks ago, things seem quite a bit different over at the Fed. A few examples: elimination of forward guidance, abstaining from the dot plot, creation of these 5 specialized task forces, and maybe most impressively, taking accountability. Instead of blaming inflation on the pandemic or supply chain interruptions or tariffs or the Strait of Hormuz, you are saying that inflation is always and every time the result of the Fed supporting printing too much money. Tell me, Mr. Warsh,
cut it close here.
You appear to be quite different from your predecessors.
Push.
How are you different?
So I've known 5 of my predecessors. I've learned particular lessons from each of them. I can only be my own man. I served before at the Fed for about 5.5 years under Chairman Bernanke, and I learned a lot of things then. But you're right. In 6 weeks, we have caused, I think, a sea change in new thinking, the beginning of a set of reforms that are going to be put in place across at least 5 dimensions in monetary policy. And it's a broader discussion about reforms that will be forthcoming in everything we do, including supervision and regulation, where there's already been a good start, in payments and the rest. We made a lot of progress in 6 weeks, but I think it's important to use this opportunity wisely. The 63 months of inflation above target has been an unfair burden and has been a tax on the American people and businesses. We plan on getting rid of that tax. If that means we need a regime change in policy and we need new consideration of practices, some of which have been working, some of which haven't, that's what we aim to do, and we're just getting started.
Well, I appreciate your commitment to being different. Let's talk about overhauling Fed communications. This from a Wall Street Journal editorial on June 15th. They write, "Few innovations since 2008 have been as counterproductive as the adoption of forward guidance as a policy tool. The constant yammering, long policy statements, press conferences after every FOMC meeting, nonstop speeches by Fed officials, and above all, the quarterly summary of economic projections has exposed how little the Fed understands about the economy and trapped officials in errant policies." Chairman Warsh, why is it important to do away with the dot plot and end, once and for all, forward guidance?
Well, Congressman, I've made no secret, probably over the last 15 years, of my views on communications. I think when central bankers speak like I am before you, it's either one under obligation, or in this case under obligation and purpose, which is to share a set of new reforms so that American households and businesses might say to themselves, this is a regime change in policy. We're only beginning it. I'm keenly interested in the views of these 5 task forces, and
Oh my God, so close. This is gonna be the last candle. If we go up a little bit more, we can do it. Any trade ideas? Well, I'm about to get it, but maybe not. Wow, I'm not gonna get it. All right. RIP. Oh, now I'm getting it, but it's too late now. Turn the TV back on.
Ultimately, these are just
The ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. Meeks, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Let me just jump into this, because in your testimony, you talked about the Federal Reserve's, and I quote, rightful independence in the conduct of monetary policy, which is good. Now, as the Chairman Hill has indicated, I also do some foreign affairs work.
Seems like a pretty indecisive handle. We're still stuck in the CPI range.
And rising cost of gas, because we know that when those prices go up at the pump, it gives higher transportation and energy cost, and they work their way through the economy, generally making groceries, high-end household goods, etc. So it depends upon handling it. So if the administration's handling of the conflict with Iran contributes to another inflationary shock, will you make the decision you believe is in the best interest of the American people and the American economy in that rightful independent stance?
Congressman, that is always our commitment, to make the best decision we can, consistent with the remit and our understanding of the world. And as I said to the chairman at the outset, we'll deliver price stability.
So, and that's, still based upon what we've seen from the president thus far. Now, I just want to be clear, make sure that, because I got to be clear on this, that if the president publicly pressures you to pursue a different course than the one you believe is in the economic, that you believe the economic data supports, will you follow the president's wishes or follow the data?
My commitment to you is to follow the law and follow the data, follow our very best judgment.
And that's even if he publicly criticizes you for doing it. If you decide this is the way to go, this is what the data shows, and he publicly criticizes you and tells you how disappointed he's in you and all of that, will you still do what the data tells you to do?
I will, Congressman.
You ready for that?
I'm ready to follow the law, and I'm ready for the Fed to deliver on
I'm surprised he said yes to that.
Expansive remit that you gave us. I'll make only one other note. We have a wide lens. We're interested in what's happening in the war. We're interested in what's happening in military conflicts around. We have to take that all in, but then we have to shut the door and make our very best decision. That's what we're going to do in a couple of weeks, and that's what we'll do in the remainder of my tenure.
Thank you. So now I want you to know that I support innovation, but I also believe that the Federal Reserve has a responsibility to protect the integrity of our payment system from political pressure and short-term enthusiasm.
Breaks away from the resistance.
And I believe that the administration has made expanding access to fintech and
digital
range, asset firms
no trade for
a
me
clear
either.
priority of his. But the Federal Reserve has long evaluated access to its payment infrastructure based on safety and soundness, operational resilience, and effective risk management, and the stability of the financial system. Not politics, not political priorities. So, can you, and what I should say this also, because what I'm concerned about is that there are firms that's connected to our nation's payment infrastructure that must have robust cybersecurity, fraud prevention, compliance, and operational controls, because failures can undermine public confidence in the financial system and leave consumers exposed to significant harm. So my question is, can you commit that decisions about access to the Federal Reserve's payment rails will remain grounded solely in the Fed's independent assessment of systemic risk, safety, and soundness, and not political direction?
We got a pump.
We're going to keep politics out of the Fed. We're going to
I don't know why we are
focused
getting
on
these
the
random pumps.
responsibilities you've given us. And I think you highlight something very important. This new
weird.
technology revolution, which is hitting the Federal Reserve and the economy, provides huge opportunities. The United States
tweet?
can lead in payments. Our economy can
he
be the
talking shit
strongest
to
in the
Walsh?
world and improve its growth rate. But it's not without risks, and we at the Fed are going to strike the right balance between the challenges and the opportunities in payments and more broadly.
Let me just ask this, I got 28 seconds, but what objective standards must any firm satisfy before you conclude that the benefits of innovation outweigh the risks to consumers and the broader financial system?
Yeah, I see his tweet.
I like the way
Oil-
you think.
oil
A
is
benefit
flowing
cost
like
test
never
is a good
before.
test for economists like us, and if the benefits exceed the cost, then that's the kind of policy, procedure, and objective we want to pursue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the chair of our Capital Markets Subcommittee, Ann Wagner of Missouri. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Chairman Warsh, and congratulations to you. My work
America is winning
on the
again,
Capital
winning
Markets
like never
Subcommittee
before.
as chairman has been focused on giving the American people and our small businesses more options.
Wait, he
and
put an M dash
access
in his
to our
tweet.
markets, giving the everyday investor
is this
and
AI?
the local employer
Did
better
he use
opportunities
ChatGPT?
to grow their financial future and kind of on their own terms, I'd say. Under the previous administration, we saw a heavy-handed regulatory approach that aimed to strip risk out of our markets entirely. And time after time, the Biden-Harris administration pushed
Took that long
policies
second later,
that
boom, right
limited
through TV.
financial
Wow.
freedom
Good
and
timing,
stifled
man.
growth. Our capital markets are, as we all know, the envy of the world, and that is because we allow Americans,
no trades, Ola.
to weigh risk
As long
and
as we're
reward
under the
for themselves
inside the
and
purple
make
lines.
the financial
No
decisions that
trades.
are best for them and their families. Chairman Warsh, at a high level, how do you view the Fed's role relative to the financial system, both as a central bank and as a bank regulator? And I guess what I mean is, should the Fed try to engineer all risk out of our economic system, or should it act as a prudent observer that only intervenes when truly necessary?
So, Congressman, it's a leading question, which I can answer with a we need to strike the right balance. We are not trying to take risks out of markets in normal times. The economic growth that I mentioned to your colleague just a moment ago comes about because of a certain dynamism in our financial markets, which comes from a dynamism in the real economy. That isn't created by the Federal Reserve, but we can be a foundation with clear, steady policies.
I mean, he probably
delivering on
tweeted
the,
that because he
remit
had,
that you gave
you
us,
know, his
so
people
that
around
the,
him.
American spirit and American economic
just be
growth
like,
can
"Hey, guys, I'm about
continue
to
be
tweet
the envy
this."
of the world.
Are you guys ready?
Something on the top
Did you guys buy your
of
contracts?
mind,
All right, tweet.
for myself and certainly
know?
for my constituents in
Money
Missouri's
printer.
2nd Congressional District is the state of the economy, including the cost of living, job growth, and interest rates. Though it is often characterized as being tasked with a dual mandate, the Fed, in fact, has multiple statutory mandates, including stable prices, maximum employment, moderate long-term interest rates, and financial
We might break
stability.
the highs here.
When the Fed leans into one of these goals, sir, it can create ripple effects on the others, forcing a balancing act between competing priorities. Chairman Warsh, how do you weigh these different mandates and the trade-offs between them?
So I'm a little different than some in the economics profession on that, Congressman. I do not think we have a cruel choice between stable prices and full employment. I think the mandate that you and Congress gave us are entirely consistent. If we can ensure stable prices, the American economy can thrive, businesses can hire more employees, and the dynamic economic engine we talked about can continue to be the envy of the world. I don't think we have to run a balancing test. I don't think it's an either-or proposition. We're in the business of doing what we can to ensure financial stability over a business cycle and financial cycle, and we're always in the business of ensuring stable prices and full employment. At different times, our focus, our lens has to turn to one of those priorities, but I think they're entirely consistent with each other.
Which leads to my next point here. There are some who believe, Chairman Warsh, that the Fed should be used as an everything regulator, where instead of acting as an observer of markets, the Fed attempts to actively manage them beyond its statutory responsibility. Chairman Warsh, how does this mission creep affect the Fed's reputation, and should the Fed take actions beyond those specifically authorized in federal law?
We should follow the law. There is a tendency when circumstances get tough for any regulatory agency, any agency to go to the edge of their authorities, but that's when politics enter the door. My objective, the objective of my colleagues, is to keep politics out, and the way we do that is we steer clear of things that we aren't authorized to do.
You buy your contracts.
My time's expired, and I think that's the answer.
I'm telling you, that's what's happening.
The chairman recognizes the ranking member of our subcommittee on digital assets, Mr. Lynch of Massachusetts, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Chairman Warsh. Good to see you. My congratulations. I was pleased to see that in your opening remarks you spoke to the issue of artificial intelligence. And as the ranking member on AI and crypto, I was just curious to try to tease some more of your thoughts out on that. You know, not only in the financial services context, but AI in general. I mean, in the past, the Federal Reserve has been able to identify risks of impact to the financial system, but also in a wider context as well. And I wonder if you'd share some of your concerns about that. And I guess I'd like to know, under your leadership, what will be the Fed's approach on AI and how you protect the system from some of the risks that may be attendant to the adoption of AI.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. We talked about this a bit in your office, and I appreciate the time. This is perhaps the most significant change in our economy in my adult lifetime. I take the new investments in intelligence, in some sense, to be one where we have to recognize it's a huge opportunity, but it also comes with risks and challenges. It is not the job of the central bank to provide or be certain of what the consequences are over the next 12 or 24 months. But we recognize that the United States is likely to be a big winner. The United States is at the forefront of these technologies.
America #1.
Both the human capital and the capital provided from investors are happening here. So the efficient frontier of these technologies are happening in the United States. This is a benefit broadly to our economy. But I don't want to sound overly complacent about it. These technologies also offer threats when they find their way into adversaries' hands. The infrastructure at the Federal Reserve, the infrastructure at our banks, large and small, they must feel new pressure as people are looking to use these technologies to do harm. So these technologies can be used for good and for harm. Over the long term, I think the U.S. is the winner. Over the long term, I think there is a material improvement in productivity, which should have a material improvement ultimately in wages and the strength of the economy. But the long term it can be quite far out, and we've got to monitor things month by month, quarter by quarter as we get there.
Yeah, the thing that troubles me is every time we talk about AI, I hear about this race, and it's us against China, or it's us against South Korea, or countries in the EU. the problem with that thinking is that in this race, and we're seeing the velocity of change is enormous. It's exceeding, obviously, our ability to regulate AI. At the end of the day, I don't see the United States as the winner. I don't see China as the winner. I see artificial superintelligence as the winner. That's where we're rushing along this course, and at the end of the day, we're creating either us, and it doesn't matter whether the creator of artificial superintelligence is a good guy or a bad guy, or a good gal or a bad gal. That superintelligence itself will be the entity that we have to confront. And I just worry about the broader impact of what's going on right now. There's tremendous resources, as you know, being poured into AI. I just hope that the course of regulation does not meet the same fate that the regulation of crypto did, where the crypto industry spent close to $250 million up here on Capitol Hill, and they got the bill they wanted. If that happens with AI, we are in serious existential trouble, not only in this country, but in this world. And I do believe that the Fed, in your position, has influence, has the ability to seek out those dangers that others may not identify. And I just ask you to please consider your role and the resources that you have, that maybe you can put a task force together to look at the broader implications of the adoption of AI. They can't even show us, they can't even explain some of the things that they're using right now. The explainability gap is enormous, but I welcome you. I wish you the best. I really do. I wish you the best for all of us.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I yield back.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, the Vice Chairman of our Financial Institutions Subcommittee. Mr. Loudermilk, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Walsh, welcome. Thank you for being here, and Godspeed with the position you now have, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
First, I want to talk about Operation Choke Point. As you are fully aware, Operation Choke Point 2.0 involved partisan actors at the Fed using, quote, reputation risk as a means to target and debank firms and individuals in the digital asset ecosystem. The energy industry and really anyone that partisan actors at the Fed believed unworthy of a bank account or loan. This was especially egregious given the fact that the Fed does not have a statutory authority from Congress to supervise for reputation risk. While I'm happy that reputation risk has been wiped from the Fed's guidance to examiners, can you please tell us what steps the Fed can take to durably ensure that statutory silence is never again abused by partisan actors to attempt through the Fed what they cannot make through law in Congress, and also what actions that you may be taking?
So thank you, Congressman. Reputational risk has been removed from the dashboard that supervisors and regulators will have anything to do with. My view is that being a good supervisor and regulator is tough business, and we don't need to make it harder by bringing politics into it. Vice Chair Bowman has begun a series of reforms before I arrived in this, and I think you're going to find in the coming quarters and years we're going to continue to reform and refine our regulatory system so that we can have a safer and sounder financial system, and I'll add a more competitive one too.
All right, thank you for that, and we appreciate your work in that area. The Fed currently holds a considerable share of federal debt and has for almost 2 decades now. With a ready buyer and low interest rates, it's not surprising that Congress has been incentivized to run up large and growing deficits over the same time frame. You've spoken before about the Fed's role here and the threat of monetary dominance and fiscal dominance. How can the Fed get out of the business of underwriting Congress's fiscal irresponsibility?
One thing we can do is think hard about when we're going to be buying debt from the Treasury. This might not sound like perfect virtue, but when we have a crisis like in 2008 and 2020, my view is you created the central bank to take extraordinary actions. In more normal times, in a more normal business and financial cycle, fiscal policy needs to be a decision that you make with the administration. Fed should have nothing to do with it. I've set up a task force to focus on the balance sheet, to ask the question, first, what's the effect of the balance sheet on the conduct of monetary policy and ultimately inflation? Second, what are the pros and cons of different regimes? I'm not of the mistaken view we can go back to where we were when I arrived at the Fed in 2006, but I think there are several other sustainable equilibrium we can achieve. And the third question is equally important. It took us nearly 18 years to find our way into this balance sheet. We're holding a lot of long-term treasury debt, long-term mortgage-backed securities. We won't be able to make changes overnight. Any changes that we make would be well deliberated, would be public, would be understood, and there'd be quite a bit of time before any of that was operationalized. I look forward to the recommendations of the task force, and I look forward to hearing from my colleagues around the FOMC as we contemplate alternatives.
Well, thank you for that. And what are your greatest concerns with regard to the threat of monetary dominance?
Yeah, so you have a different job than we do. The independence that many of your colleagues have spoke about this morning is a political and economic decision to give us the pen on interest rates, to let us be the deciders of monetary policy. I've always taken that as part of a bargain. You're giving us independence in that, and my judgment is we should be staying out of fiscal policy. We shouldn't be weighing in, no matter how tempting it might be, either directly by buying assets that have some flavor of fiscal policy, or by opining on subjects that really isn't our business. We're going to try to stick in our lane at the Federal Reserve. We've been good at that for the last 6 weeks, but there's always a temptation to wander in other areas. I'm going to try to be reserved in my comments on fiscal policy with you and your colleagues. That's your job, it's not mine.
Well, thank you for those answers. They're very thorough and very refreshing to hear. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
So refreshing.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Houston, Texas, Mr. Green, who is a ranking member of our subcommittee on oversight and investigations. Mr. Green.
Over here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the ranking member as well. And I welcome you to the committee, Mr. Chairman, but I would also say to you that I will pray for you. And I'll pray for you because many of the questions that have been predicated today hinge upon a belief that you will sanction the president's desires. It is thought among the general public that you're in the position you're in because the president could not have the influence that he wanted to have with the prior chair, and he believes he can have it with you. So I hope that you will stand firm and honor your commitments that you're making, though some of them are not firm commitments as I understood your language. You indicated that you're interested in war. I appreciate this, but I believe you should also be interested in speculative bubbles. My assumption is that you are. Are you interested in bubbles, speculative bubbles, Mr. Chairman?
We've got a wide lens. We spend a lot of time thinking about what's happening.
I'm going to take that as a yes. Now, given that you're interested in speculative bubbles, let's just talk about a bubble that occurred. President Trump's meme coin, $Trump, profited an average of $1.74 million per day.
Let's go.
Over his first year. $1.74 million per day.
Make that money.
This amounted to approximately $636 million in total royalties and licensing fees generated at its launch. While this was happening, during that same period of time, nearly 1 million investors lost a combined $3.8 billion. This is because
Let's
that
go.
meme coin
Lose that money.
lost value, dropped precipitously in value. It was a bubble, by the way. It is nothing. Anybody who's listening to me, if you've invested in a meme coin, you've invested in nothing. Zero. In a righteous world, it would be illegal. But given the Secretary of the Treasury that we have currently, it is not. And that's very unfortunate. SEC, the Secretary of the SEC.
Chair.
It is not. I think that we should concern ourselves with these speculative bubbles. And whether you like it or not, you have to concern yourself with it, because when you lower interest rates, you lower the rates such that there's more capital available for people to use for speculative reasons. So you have to be concerned about it whether you want to or not, because you don't want to see a speculative bubble. Can I have your assurance that you will be concerned about these speculative bubbles, Mr. Chairman?
So, Congressman, we want a resilient, strong, safe financial system, and we are looking at financial markets and we're looking at the real economy to make sure we deliver on what we can. Some of these other subjects are really more in your purview and responsibility than
they're in my
mine.
purview. Excuse me for interrupting, but I have to. They're in my purview, but only because I choose to have them in my purview, and I make an issue of them. I have to vote on them. But they're in your purview, too, because you decide whether the rates go up or down. And if you lower them, then people can engage in these speculative bubbles, such as the Trump meme coin, and they can lose a lot of money. Losing billions of dollars while the president makes millions on a daily basis. This is the epitome of ridiculosity. At some point, we all have to take a stand, Mr. Chairman. This is going to be your opportunity. You're going to have to take a stand at some point, because this president is interested in making money. He puts money ahead of the people of this country. The people of the United States of America are secondary when it comes to the president. They may even be tertiary or quaternary, but they're not first. And at some point, you're going to have to make a tough decision as it relates to this president. Look, I'm not going to prejudge you. I'm going to assume that given your statements and the latitude that the Supreme Court is giving
prejudging?
that you'll make the
Seems
right
like
decision.
it's the same thing.
But you're going to have to be concerned about a speculative bubble, especially as it relates to crypto. This is something that we'll all have to address. I thank you very much.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the Vice Chairman of our full committee, Mr. Heisiger of Michigan, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Chairman Warsh, congratulations.
Why is he asking about meme
joining
coins?
many of
Everyone
my
knows
colleagues
most of that are crap. Most of them are
seeing
crap,
you there
yeah.
as a very positive.
He's just doing his job, you know.
In late 2021 and 2022,
Just going through the
as has been
checklist.
referenced by a few others, the Fed had recognized inflation was not transitory. I'm reminded of actually a hearing we had where we had then Secretary Yellen, former Fed Chair Yellen, sitting next to the then current Fed Chairman. And when I brought up the question about whether it was transitory, they did not have the same answer. And it was interesting seeing how that lag, and it sort of played into the fear that many of us had that there had been more to this foot dragging coming out of the Biden administration. The quick question is, while the appropriate speed of a response depends on what is driving inflation, I think you would certainly agree. I'm curious your view of how the Fed should make that judgment and act quickly once it does, because I think, as has been pointed out, there was a lag.
So, Congressman, I appreciate the question.
Are you going to take a trade? Nope.
We only look to the past.
Not unless we
for
break
lessons
over the
learned.
purple line.
We're not trying to
We only have 30
relitigate
minutes left,
the
so I doubt
decisions
it.
that are made of our predecessors. But the reforms that I've already announced in communications, the task forces that have been established, are an attempt to make the conduct of monetary policy better, swifter, more sound, so we can deliver price stability. Our number one objective is to get policy right, and my judgment, as I said to one of your colleagues before, is that demands an open mind. That means not pre-committing to decisions before we take it up inside the four walls of the Federal Reserve. And so you'll hear from me a lot less forward guidance and a lot of listening. Generally, as a practice, what we're going to try to do, especially at the beginning, is deeper, more serious discussions among us, fewer pronouncements.
Hello.
So I appreciate you don't want to relitigate the past, but I do think, as we all know, we also learn from history. And during the previous administration, the Fed took some pretty major regulatory actions, some within its statutory authority, and my view,
Steve is
maybe
in the
excessive,
house.
but others that were clearly beyond what Congress had really authorized. And everyone agrees a safe and sound banking system is essential to
Black
monetary
cats, good
policy,
luck.
the economy,
I
and
would
the
think
American
so.
people. But when the Fed exceeds its statutory authority,
Needs his
or
daily
reinterpretations,
headbutting session.
or interprets old laws to claim new powers, that to me is mission creep. Can you assure us that future bank regulatory proposals will respect the important procedural guardrails established by the Administrative
blessing everybody's trade right
Procedure
now.
Act? The APA has been, in many ways, trampled, I believe, which often
Do you wanna
received
talk,
only
Steve? Here.
nominal consideration
into
under
the
the
mic.
previous administration. How are you going to handle this?
So we're going to follow the law just as you say. You've established a set of laws. There's a set of regulations by which changes in supervision and regulation, changes in guidance can be made. We intend to follow them with an objective, as you mentioned, of a safe,
long-ass
sound,
hearing.
and again, I'll add, competitive banking
Not really
system.
talking about
It's a
anything
huge strength of the
substantive.
United States, and our banking system is stronger and more resilient than most around the global
I'm
economy.
going to step to the side
Expound
so
a
I
little bit
don't
about
camouflage
your views
Steve
of the
here.
importance of a banking system to the American people and the benefits to them of a Fed sticking to the authorities that Congress has given it, and rather than going far afield.
Yeah, so we've got to keep politics out of the Fed. Politics can find their way into the Fed through any of the range of powers that you've given us. Our supervisors and regulators have a lot of authority over the thousands of banks that are regulated in the United States. Explicit authority and also authority when they knock on the door and they ask a series of questions.
Look.
One of the great strengths of the U.S. economy is the diversity of
big boy.
institutions we
Big
have in the
boy.
banking business. Most of the G20 counterparts we have, they have a handful of banks. They're implicitly backed by their government. One of the untold strengths of our economy is the diversity of our banking system. We've got regulators that need to ensure that the regulation and supervision are tailored to what happens in
Did
those
you change your name again?
One size
Back to
fits
Miss
all
K?
might work for other countries. It doesn't work in the U.S. And the vision I have, Congressman, is liquidity and credit that comes up from the real economy
Alright, he
through the
left.
banks
Thank you.
and gets
He's
aggregated,
done.
not top-down liquidity
Gentlemen's
provided by the Federal
time is
Reserve.
Come here.
Thank you.
Come
I
here,
yield
Steve.
back.
Thank you.
This way.
Chair recognizes the ranking member of our subcommittee on housing and insurance, Mr. Cleaver. You're recognized for 5
Steve.
minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me first, before I ask any questions, to express my personal
Steve, do you want a screwdriver?
appreciation for you and Ranking Member Waters for allowing and giving my partner, Mike
Me.
Flood, and I the
Screwdriver.
opportunity to
Look, you like
go out
this?
and deal with this housing issue that, frankly, I think is going to add a whole new dimension to our ability as a
Get back,
federal
get
government
back on the screen. Come on.
to increase this
Come on.
human need
you
for
along.
housing. So
There you
thank
go.
you very much. I
There you
appreciate,
go. Okay,
and I know
he's
he
leaving
does
for
as
good
well,
now. I annoyed him.
all of the
Annoyed him too much.
freedom that you guys gave us. Thank you, Madam Ranking Member. Mr. Chairman, congratulations for
Oh my
your
God! I
new
got no
step
trades
and
during Asia, and I'm getting
your,
no trade this morning either. So
career
could be no trade day.
and for being here. I appreciate
Haven't had that in a
having
while.
a good conversation with you prior to this hearing. And I'm sure that you're not surprised that there's a great deal of
That's Tyler
interest
Robinson's
in,
screwdriver.
independence.
Really?
And,
I wonder where I
MPL,
got
you said
this.
There are 4 endowments.
He
of
probably
human
bought something
species.
that I have.
One of them is independence. We have an independent will. And I'm interested in a declaration of independence, if you will. Wax eloquent on your view about the independence of the Federal Reserve.
So the independence of the Federal Reserve is sacrosanct.
I
Part
declare
of the reason
independence.
for the Fed's power comes not just from a printing press, though it can be useful from time to time. It comes from our credibility to make the best choices we can, consistent with the law that you've written for us. And that credibility is bolstered if we are and are perceived to be independent. And so that's a commitment I can make to you, because that's the way we can best do our job.
Well, thank you very much. Independence is a big deal in the real world, and then certainly with the Federal Reserve. But I also have to say that there is a terror of the unknown as part of who we are. And the oldest and strongest of the human emotions is fear. It's almost the first thing
What is he even
have.
saying?
Even babies will jump because there's a fear of falling. Even they may not even realize they're in the world, but there is this fear. And I'm not sure what to call this, maybe AI anxiety, but I clearly have it. And it's only, my youngest son is an actor, and it would be inappropriate for me to tell everybody here to watch Sweet Magnolias on Netflix. However, I am concerned, he's concerned, as many of the people in that business, about what AI can do to that whole profession.
83 and a half, all right.
But there's this fear that at some point that AI may become more intelligent than human beings, and then put us in a situation where we become obsolete. Do you have, as the chair of the Fed, the Federal Reserve, concerns about AI that you wish we knew and would address?
Thank you, Congressman. This is the most exciting opportunity, but with it comes the kinds of risks and challenges that
Looks
you
like it won't
highlight.
break up.
We at the central bank need to look at these with
It's
a
still
view
possible.
towards what do they mean for our mandate.
Because we
What
just
does
swept
it
this
mean
low,
for the
so maybe we'll get a
for,
reaction.
Our expectations of inflation over the next couple of years and beyond.
What
What's
time
it
do
mean
you
for
trade till?
employment? You told us that's
trade
our
till
job.
market close.
So we have to look at
But I end my
artificial
stream
intelligence and
around
the surge
12
of technology
or
with
in like
open
10
eyes
minutes.
about it. I must admit that part of these challenges, I see huge amounts of talent and thinking inside at the Federal Reserve, but I wanted to bring in some outsiders to share a view, so I've created a task force on productivity and jobs to help us think about that connection. We're not outsourcing anything. We're ultimately
Gentleman's
gonna
time has expired.
We're ultimately going to make these decisions, but American ingenuity has found its
Thank you,
way
Mr.
into
Chairman.
artificial intelligence, and it's an exciting time, but one that we're not complacent about.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the chair of our subcommittee on digital assets, Mr. Stile of Wisconsin. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Warsh, thank you for being with us today. A year ago on Saturday, the Genius Act was signed into law. And with that, a series of deadlines for rules to be promulgated began, and the clock began to tick. You came into your job confirmed approximately 2 months ago. The deadline for the Fed to promulgate rules is this Saturday. Will the Fed meet that deadline?
Well, it's a fair and open question. I have been corrected. I've not been in the job 6 weeks, but 7. We're racing to put that out by this deadline. I'll just add one other thing, Congressman, without taking too much of your time. I think rulemakings from the bank regulators
Tankers
are best
attacked?
when
Really?
we have a family fight between and among us, so that
Doesn't
there
seem
would
like
be
the
one
market's
proposed
reacting, though.
rulemaking for comment. It might not be exactly true this time, but that's my
Kuwait
objective. that we
engaging
be
with
coordinating
hostile
and issuing
aerial
our
targets.
rulemakings at the same moment.
Explosions
I appreciate
heard.
that. I think from this body,
Iran's,
I think there's a huge
is that
opportunity
Tessum?
with stablecoin,
Tessum
in
Island?
particular, to make sure that consumers are protected. That was one of the drivers of us
God,
passing
the
that
war is
legislation.
definitely not over.
There's a lot of work to be done in your new role. with the Fed, but we would like to be updated if, in fact, that deadline is not made. And then, in fact, when those rules will be promulgated, we're all anxiously awaiting, so appreciate your attention to that. Let me shift gears. There's been a lot of talk about AI. Obviously, as any new technology, as you have said, brings forward opportunity, but also risk. One argument, of course, is the labor market could collapse. We heard that offered by a couple of our colleagues. Of course, as we look back at other technological cycles in the United States, we've actually seen standards of living increasing. Jevons paradox tells us that actually as technological cycles come through, we have opportunities for greater employment, in particular if we get the rules of the road right, as in many ways the United States has in previous technological cycles. How are you analyzing your role with full employment, in particular as it relates
SK Hynix
to
up 20%.
this next technological wave?
If this cycle, Congressman, is like the previous positive technology shocks, the U.S. will be richer, will be more productive, there'll be more labor, there'll be more wages, there'll be more compensation. That is if this follows prior trends. This technology shock is likely more significant. This is probably the biggest change in my adult lifetime because it's not just the creation of a new widget. What it is, it's changing the method of innovation and the speed of innovation, and I can't think of a country on earth as well positioned to take advantage of it. So that's on the one hand, but on the other hand, it can lead to disruption. My own best guess is that the advent of the technology will be augmenting existing work, that employees that were there will be more productive.
You're back in it?
Ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't believe in the lump of labor fallacy. All the jobs that are there have already been created, and the technology will remove some. Well, it might be disruptive in the near term. It'll create a lot of other jobs. Just to give one example from history, and then I'll close. Who knew at the creation of the internet that the internet would create 1.5 million Uber and Lyft drivers? I certainly didn't. So I want to be very open-minded about the job-producing elements of it. But we have a day job, and it's to deliver on price stability and full employment. I've asked this outside task force
not breaking up the
of few
trade.
incredible experts to think hard about it
going smooth
over
right now.
various time horizons, and
break
we'll
even
keep
for
our
me
eye on making
secured
sure we deliver in every
RR
one of
getting
those
off
time
in the
horizons
okay.
to ensure stable prices and full employment as
I
best
mean,
we
you
can.
got the initial.
Thank you for that. I think there really is optimism,
the
although
pump
there is downside
so
risk.
I
I think
like
one of the
kudos on
imperative
you for
aspects
that. It
here
just
is that
didn't go to your
we get the
target.
rules of the road right so that the innovation development is occurring in the United States
we're
of
dropping
America
kinda hard.
and not offshore. One of my big concerns is how the Biden administration looked at emerging technologies in the financial services space, was that they were pushing that innovation development offshore rather than encouraging that here in the United States of America. With 30 seconds left, a lot has been said on the positive numbers that came out today. How does that shape your short-term and long-term outlook with the final 25 seconds?
So it's one data point. The reason I created a task force on data is I don't want to overread or cherry pick data. There might be some that look at this morning's data and say, oh, mission accomplished, everything is swell. That is not my view.
Cognizant of the time, appreciate you being here today, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the ranking member of our subcommittee on financial institutions, Dr. Foster from Illinois. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, congratulations, and I hope that you cherish the scars from surviving the financial crisis that we both suffered through 20 years ago. I entered Congress and the Financial Services Committee.
I don't know. We're
March of
still stuck in the
2008,
CPI
where I was
range.
Right in the front row there,
Maybe
about 2
that's
meters
gonna be
from
the case.
Ben Bernanke and Hank Paulson, as they came to Congress to ask for a $700 billion bailout, watching the sweat drip down Hank Paulson's forehead. So I hope you don't have to go through that. But you know, one of the Fed's most important roles outside of monetary policy is the operation of the central bank swap lines. And these, as you know, were absolutely crucial in preventing the global financial crisis from becoming a global depression. And I think, to my mind, remains the major reason why the U.S. dollar is the world's indispensable reserve currency, in an area where, by the way, the Chinese are trying to become increasingly competitive. And so the problem, of course, is that right now we have in the White House an occupant who sees his every power as a means of rewarding his friends and punishing his enemies, domestic and foreign. We saw that an example in the Argentine bailout, where he implemented swap lines using the Treasury's Exchange Stabilization Fund. I think he pretty much maxed it out. But to reward one of his MAGA allies internationally with a $20 billion loan at well below market rates, or probably they couldn't get a loan from anyone at that point. And so the question that I have, that when you and the FOMC are operating those lines, particularly in times of crisis, do you see yourself as an agent of the president or as an independent actor?
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate the question. The swap lines that we put in place in the 2008 financial crisis, like you, I think, played a remarkable benefit in trying to mitigate the risks for the U.S. economy. And it reinforced that the dollar is the dominant currency in the world. Now, my judgment as central bank chief is to let the dollar policy be discussed by the Treasury Secretary and leave that to him. But historically speaking, I think the swap lines played a major role. The dollar liquidity swap lines that the Fed has put in place are about the conduct of monetary policy. So those are independent, but I just want to distinguish one thing. The Treasury has separate authorities and can use the Exchange Stabilization Fund for swap lines that are unrelated to our powers and responsibilities.
Right. Yeah, but the Fed's the big dog in swap lines. I mean, the ESF is, I think it's somewhere a little bit north of 20 billion, I think, is the most that they could deploy, which they did, much, I have to say, not to the benefit of U.S. farmers that I represent, but anyway, he decided to bail out his friend in Argentina.
Better not go up after stopping you out.
But that was the Treasury, and that was different. So the question is, what happens if there is a crisis and you get a call from the president and says, "I got this friend that I want you to bail out or punish by politically allocating those swap lines."
You got wicked out
is there
a
an
little
independence
bit
there that we have to
maybe
protect
like
as well?
3 ticks.
So the independence and the conduct of
3
monetary
ticks.
policy and everything that comes along with it is independent. But just to go back to the 2008 financial crisis, when all that happened, as you'll recall, the Treasury Secretary and the Fed Chairman, they often had to work in tandem. It's hard to distinguish in crisis times, separate from more benign times, exactly where those roles and responsibilities are. And when we put in those swap lines, when I was a governor at the Federal Reserve, I remember frequent discussions between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. We have our independent authority.
All right,
I don't want to leave you with the impression that
long.
in 2008 or
Boring.
9 we did that without a discussion with the.
I think he said what he needed to say. All right, we got 15 minutes left. We're nowhere near the bottom or the top of the range, so I'm gonna head out here, guys. We'll see if I get anything in the afternoon. Otherwise, I'm gonna try again tomorrow. I don't know why today feels like a Thursday, but it's only Tuesday, so I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Good luck on your trades. Peace out.